All right, and now we are recording. So just know that as we record, only the speaker's webcam gets recorded. So don't feel shy about keeping your webcam on there. All right, so I am Julie Ray, and I work for the Duluth Public Schools and Region 3 as Assistive Technology Coordinator. And I'm so happy to have you all here to talk about assistive technology and distance learning. We talk about this every time because it's a good part of adult learning, and tying what we're doing to why we're doing it leads to more carryover of actually doing some of the things. And today's why for me was that I learned this super cool tool from Sherri about that will help provide access for an individual student and many of her students, as she'll share with you. But so it's just about providing more access for more students through that individualization in IEPs. So that was my why for today. So just think about why you're here today, whether that's to provide students with more access or whatever else that might be. I always talk about the SET framework. Keep in mind, this is how we think when we're considering assistive technology. We want to think about the student first. You know all of your students, then the environments and the tasks that they're doing. We know that the environments and the tasks have changed drastically during distance learning. So just keep those things in mind as we're considering the tools. We will learn about some resources from our guests today, and then we will go into questions and answers. We will talk about distance learning wins with Greg Sumner, and then I'll share some very brief additional resources and do a wrap up for you. So as we're moving in today, I would love to introduce to you Sherri Walker. She is a teacher at Denfeld High School. She works with students on the autism spectrum, and that's here in the Duluth Public Schools. And so I'm very excited to be working with Sherri today and having her share with us about Jamboard, the interactive whiteboard feature through Google. And so Sherri, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen if you want to do a little bit of an introduction, and you can go ahead and share your screen then.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sherri Walker. I work here at Denfeld, as Julie said. I work with high schoolers who are on the autism spectrum. My classroom this year took a turn where we work with everyone from mid-range functioning to high functioning. And so one of the things that happened this year was I got a student who has echolalia, which means that they repeat everything that you say if they don't know what else to say. And it was interesting when he started here because I would say something and he would repeat it. And we got to the point by the time that the COVID hit where we were getting spontaneous speech, and it was fun and it was exciting. And then distance learning hit, and we went back to square one and trying to figure out how to get the spontaneous speech back was difficult. So we have, in my endeavor to get that back, I've tried a lot of different things with my students, just trying to get a lot of vocabulary back in, trying to get a lot of access for them to their packets. So I've used things like Google Slides. I've used different websites, but the interaction part between the student and myself has not been great. So Julie and I have been talking, and we found Google Jamboard. And Google Jamboard is an interactive whiteboard that you can use with your student. And I'm going to open it up and I'm going to show you. It's this icon that comes with your Google Suite. And if you just click on Google Jamboard.
Sherri, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yep.
I
Is it
think if you would, when you share your screen, if you could just share that window, because right now we're seeing your meet screen. We're seeing both sides of your split screen.
Oh, so how do I change that, Julie?
Click right there. Very good.
Okay.
Yep. And then you can stop presenting and then just go back into present. And then when you do that, you can either choose, I would choose window and then choose the window where you've got the Jamboard open. And then we'll see that a little bigger rather than, you don't need to see much.
So will it go, it'll go between the windows then?
It should if you share a window, not one Chrome tab, but share one window, share Chrome window, and then pick the one that has the Jamboard up there.
Okay, and I did that. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Beautiful. No, thank you. That's helpful for us.
Okay, so this is the screen that you get when you start your Jamboard. And these are just some of the Jamboards that I've made for my students, particularly one. And in order to get some spontaneous language. So this one that I'm opening up for you right now, one of the first questions I always ask him was, how are you today? And I would always get the same answer, I feel happy. So I wanted a different answer that was more accurate. So I gave him some scripted answers. And if you click on the laser option, which he can do when he brings Jamboard up, because it's an interactive Jamboard, you can share it with people, just like you do a Google Doc. So if I click here on who I want to share it with, I can make him an editor or give temporary access, or I can make him a viewer. So that I can do all of those things. And then I can, if he's having trouble accessing words, I can say, grab your laser and circle the one you want. And then the laser will tell me how he's doing. The other thing that I can have him do is I can have him go to the pen, and you can get a pen, a marker, a highlighter, or a brush. He can choose whatever color he wants. And if you have a touch screen, he can circle it, or he can use his mouse. I use the stickies a lot so that he can just move things around. It makes it easier with the stickies. Yesterday, I was in a session with our speech and language clinician here at Denfeld, and I was another student. We were working on balanced meals. So we ended up with 6 frames. I ended up clearing all of them, but here's what I did. I downloaded the app onto my iPhone, and it has one feature that is not on the Chromebooks. So if I draw a circle on my iPhone, and it will show up on this app. Now it's not too great here, but if I click on this, it's got assistive drawing tools. If I click on it, oh, please work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's supposed to make it a perfect circle. Let's see, let's try this again. So I'll try this again.
And Sherri, as you're doing that, something that we see on, oh, beautiful. The nice thing is that I can see your little tiny icon. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but you would know which student was doing that. If you had multiple students in there, there's that little tiny thing up there that shows your face. So that's kind of a cool option.
Right. So I see everybody that's doing, whoever is doing what. So then the other thing that we did yesterday that was kind of fun was you can insert, we used the stickies, and I learned this yesterday with this. We each wrote down what we thought would make a balanced meal, because that's what we were working on for our transition. You cannot see my sticky right now. So it was, the idea was you write down what you think would be a part of a balanced meal. So we each typed down what we thought would be a part of a balanced meal. And Julie, if you could, actually, Nancy, are you on this call?
Yes, I am.
Will you go ahead and type and add, because you're automatically in this Jamboard.
Sure. Let's see my sticky note.
So the sticky note is on the left-hand side, and it's right below the select button. And so everybody,
I don't think I have access to that right now.
oh, okay. So Julie, if I give you access, would you mind trying?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is it gets to where it kind of becomes a little bit of a game for the students, and everybody can, you can see, like, they can't see what you're doing, but then when they show, it's, uh-oh, now what's happening? Ah. I don't know what's happening.
Sherri, I know on my end, I wonder if we don't want to mess around with the sharing piece just to make sure that people can see the cool things that you're doing with it. But basically what would happen is that if I typed a Post-it note, it wouldn't show up until I hit share, and then it would pop up there.
Right. That. And so then you can see like what kids know and don't know. So that's one thing. Then we did another thing, like below that, you can add an image. So we decided we were going to make supper, and we each went to Google image search, where all of the images that are in this Google search are free images, so you don't have to worry about copyright. And we typed in what we thought would be good. Mine was broccoli, and we downloaded a picture. And our picture came up. And this was the part that the student thought was absolutely the best, because she got to add pictures. I have not spent very much time learning the Jamboard. If you know how to use a smartboard, you can learn how to use a Jamboard. I downloaded it one morning and I used it in the afternoon. For people in Duluth, the hardest part was the students didn't have access, but they do now. In Duluth, you just go to your waffle, and it's in that section of your waffle, the Jamboard, the circle with the rectangle. That's where you find it. you can also write, if you have a touch screen, you can write on it with your finger. I don't know what I'm writing, but
Dinner.
dinner. I can write dinner, yeah.
I just wanted to add something really quick. When we did this yesterday, it was so nice to be able to interact with the student and the two teachers. And it was just really fun for all of us. And the student we had I just love this, she said, so it was really a lot of fun. It was a nice tool to kind of motivate kids to be thinking about that. And, the pictures are great. So I really enjoyed it. It was fun for me too. So it was great. Nice interactive tool. And that's what I guess I like about it, is because it's not so sterile, it's interactive with the kids, and there's language going on, and they can see it written. You can write something, you can bring pictures in, you can talk about things. So it initiates language in all sorts of good directions.
I'm going to show one last Jamboard that shows a little more sophistication, and then I have Google going at the same time when I'm working with the kids. How do you insert a picture? You go to add the image that's right below sticky note, click on it. You can upload from your computer. You just click upload, select your file, and then look for the file you want, or you can do a Google search and find whatever you want. You can go to your Google Drive and find pictures there. You can even do shared drives, and you can do your recent pictures. But this is one that I've done that has a little more, that's a little more sophisticated. The student and I were talking, he has a dog and my son has 2 dogs. So we talked about his dogs, my son's dogs. And so I inserted personal pictures of my son's dogs. But here we did a picture sort, and I had all of these pictures piled up in the middle in different ways, but they were all in a pile. And so then he had to take and sort all these pictures into different categories. Which took us a lot longer than I thought it would, but he was in 7th heaven. And I learned a lot from doing that with him. By the way, all of your slides, or all of your frames, as they're called here, are listed up at the top. Then we did a review of things that we have done, have already learned. And like on my sticky note, he had to fill in the word botanist and the word microscope. Here he had to reproduce flowers. So I had all the flowers on top. He had to reproduce the flowers. And then last of all, he had to write in the names of the parts of the plants. And he did that all with his mouse. So that's how interactive you can get it to be. You can make it as passive as you want it to be, but I've found it's very helpful. He actually talks a lot more now. Yesterday we played Hangman. So it has been a gem. So I haven't been looking at questions. I'm sorry.
No, Sherri, I think you've been actually answering all the questions that have come up in the question in the chat window, actually. There have been a couple that I have responded to on the side too, just how they can access them. But there, Wendy just typed in a question: is the jam automatically saved? Like in,
Yes, it does automatically save, just like all other Google programs do.
Beautiful. So if people do have other questions, you can feel free to unmute yourselves on the microphone or to type a question in the chat window. This is such a great introduction, Sherri. I feel like you just kind of, I guess, scratched the surface of the things that you're doing with this already. But
Yeah.
I just love that framing of, it's like having a smart board, but now you've got it remotely if you use this with Meet or Zoom or whatever you would use it with. So yeah.
The one thing that do you have to make a new Jamboard for, I didn't see that whole question.
Sure. The question from Colleen is, do you have to make a new Jamboard for each frame? Could you show us how to start a new frame?
Sure. So a new frame is just going to the next, hitting the arrow at the top, and you get a new frame. So it's not a new Jamboard for each new frame.
All right. And
how do
the
I
next
import okay, so the flower worksheet, all I did was I did a Google image search, and I did flower parts of a plant is what I did. And you'll be surprised what you come up with. Like,
great.
Like this is one. This one looks, it's like if you have one that just needs a student that just needs more of a prompt, you could use something like this.
That's great, Sherri. And part of Julie's question. Oh, sorry.
I said, or you could download it and then upload it from your computer or your drive. If you have something downloaded on your computer.
Part of that question too is about text boxes. And I know that we talked about that a little bit, Sherri, and there aren't necessarily text boxes, but the sticky notes can be like text boxes. And if you make the color clear, they don't show up as a yellow box. It would just be like a white box.
Right. So, right. The sticky notes can change color. And they change size once you make them. So, whoops, I gotta actually click in there. So once you actually make them, you can make them whatever size you want. They always stay in a square though. But if you want, what I recommend is that you just use the pen. If you have the app on your phone, you can't get it on the Chromebook. There is an assistive drawing tool that will allow you to make your writing perfect if you need to have that. I don't particularly need to have that, so.
Great. One more question we'll take, and then we'll move to Greg's distance learning wins, but know that at the end we'll have time for more question and answers too, if people can hang around. Wendy asked, how do you organize your jams for future reference? Do you get a menu when you open the app?
So when I open the app, I don't have that many. So I don't really have a recommendation for how to organize them right now.
Go ahead.
So I just have them in here right now by date. And I did have the student's name by there, but I took them out for today's purposes.
Thanks for doing that, Sherri. Basically, you can organize these like you would organize anything else in your Google Drive, just like you would organize Google Docs or your Sheets or anything else that you've got in Drive. You can make folders, you can move them around that way, name them with dates so that they're easier for you to find, whatever your kind of tricks are for organizing within Google Drive.
So how are you meeting with your student then? Are you meeting with them on Zoom and then you're both pulling this up, or
I'm meeting with them on Google Meet.
Google Meet, yeah.
Yeah. And then
Then they have a Chromebook and they're pulling it up, or what?
if they have if they have a Chromebook that they can touch,
Okay.
that has what's the appropriate word, Julie? Where they can touch and move things.
Screen, yeah.
Then it will work. My student didn't have that, but he has an iPad, and that's what we're using. But it's actually working out where he doesn't like to touch the screen, so he's doing everything with his mouse.
Yeah. Right.
So it's actually working out okay that he doesn't have the touch access.
Cool.
Good.
So,
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sherri, for presenting this. Like I said, again, maybe if we can hang around for a couple minutes at the end after we hear from Greg, just to, there might be some more questions. I know it's a new tool for a lot of people. So, so that would be great.
Thanks,
Thank
Sherri.
you. Such an
welcome.
exciting new tool. I think it has a ton of promise. Cool.
it does. Can't put videos in here. I gotta tell you that. Can't put videos in there.
Good to know. Good to know. All right. Thank you. All right. So now, Greg, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, Greg Sumner is going to do our segment on distance learning wins.
All right, I think I got it. Maybe. All right, good morning. Good to see you here. Thank you, Sherri. That was so exciting to hear about. Is my screen being shared okay, Julie? It's good. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to make this quick here, setting the timer. We're going to be under 3 minutes. Here we go. We'll get you guys out of here on time, and you can stick around for questions afterwards. Okay, it's been a good week. Our last week of the show here, we're talking about student-teacher wins, Tangled and Tech wins, and some school-wide wins. First story here comes at us from Duluth High School. We got Jamie Baker, DCD teacher. Her quote is, "My students and parents wanted to connect with each other through this process and are FaceTiming and doing hangouts outside of our class times. Parents are starting to support each other online. Many of the families went from not having internet or using any devices to actively participating with online educational formats as well as hangouts." So to put it in terms of the set format, we've got high school students in the DCD program. The task they did was a virtual field trip to the San Diego Zoo. They were connecting families to support each other, and they did social skills for the students by them talking outside of class on Hangouts. We've got some tools. We got iPads, the San Diego Zoo website, and the live animal cams. Our next story is coming at us from the Lake Superior School District and Northern Lights Co-op. We have two different ways that people are engaging students. We have Heather Gould here. She is dressing up to interact with her elementary student, and Jackie here is using pets and the students' pets to kind of get them up to the screen. A nice trick to get them engaged with this online process. Our last story is Marsha Asp, a paraprofessional at Cromwell High School, and Max Bueller, the autism consultant from the co-op. The quote is, the student went from 100% or 10% accuracy to 80% accuracy in just 7 weeks of distance learning. And that was on a functional math skill of naming coins. The student was a high school student at Cromwell's DCD program, and the tools they were using was Google Meet, the Link's online math curriculum, which is free to everybody in Region 3, a growth mindset, he said, and discrete trial training. Nice job. That's pretty exciting. All right. So our Tangled and Tech wins. Here's a couple options for you. Nice quick options to find sound effects to kind of try to engage your students is this soundgle.com. And then if you haven't heard of breakout rooms, it's a great feature in Zoom. I'd watch for it in Google Meet as it comes out. You can take a group of 20 people, put them in 5 different rooms so they can have small group conversations. A really nice tool to use if you haven't been using it. All right, last thing, we got school-wide wins. Hermantown did their drive-through graduation. They had a great time there. There's a nice WDIO article right there you can click on, and you can find this document in the slideshow links here. And Tuba Harbors, they had a nice commemoration for their seniors. They had a big banner made, and they have signs on all the light poles in town. Outstanding. Some fun stuff going on out there, and good luck to everybody in these last few weeks of distance learning wins. So take care, and back to you, Julie.
Great. Thanks so much, Greg. Again, those silver linings in distance learning are really nice and important to be able to share. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen really quickly here just to wrap things up. There we go. And in the PDF copy of the slides, you'll also have a copy of, or a link to rather, of the things that Greg just shared. So know that you'll have that. Here are some additional resources, some things on how to use Jamboard in case you wanted a little more training. A link to some slides from a training yesterday on differentiation, and a little link there how to make Post-it puppets. Wendy Picard shared with me a website, community playthings, and I've subscribed to them, and now like they sent this thing on how you can make super cute finger puppets out of a Post-it note. So that's your 30-second little fun thing for the day. Think about just one thing that you can use as you're moving forward that would help you as you consider your students in their current environments and tasks, and one tool that you might be able to use with that. I want to thank you all for coming today, and keep an eye out. This is our last session for this year, but next year we'll be continuing with AT office hours, and we'll also need people to be guests too. So keep that in your mind if you have something for next year, because I think a lot of the things, or everything that we shared this year, will likely be helpful moving forward next year, regardless of what model we're using. So just keep all of those things in mind. A recording of this session will be emailed to you, and don't hesitate to reach out to me with questions. And feel free to hang around if you've got more questions, but I'm going to stop the recording at this point.
Did you say the link to the PowerPoint is in the email, Julie? Is that right? Somebody asked that question.
Yeah, thanks. I saw that question come up, but didn't quite catch it as I was talking.